On this classified episode, you'll be flushed to know that we have a full house. Joining me today is the man with no name, Mr. Joshua McLeod.
I have no name and therefore have no name.
The operative we've been told to call Fritz. Frederick Fritz.
Always shaken, never stirred.
And lastly, live via encrypted shoe phone, Mr. Justin Toner.
I have a license to drive my car.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for meeting me to discuss this important topic.
Oh, always a pleasure.
The topic, as I'm sure you're quite aware, is the spy films featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and spy films in general, because they're fun.
Oh, yes.
Oh, definitely.
So, what film shall we start discussing first?
I guess maybe we can go in kind of like the order that they did them. We can, I think let's start with Secret Agent Super Dragon.
Super Dragon, okay. This is a film I didn't get to watch during the week I had to prepare, so I'm gonna let you and Josh take that away, and we'll chime in when appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to step back on that one myself because
Well, you have Ray Danton plays. His name is Secret Agent Super Dragon, isn't it?
I believe it's so. I mean that's what his code name is. I could take a quick check. But you go ahead and tell them the plot.
And then you have so someone gets killed by the bad guys, and Ray Danton and Secret Agent Super Dragon goes to Michigan, and apparently there's some sort of weird thing involving chewing gum, like they're poisoning the chewing gum, and when you chew the chewing gum, you go insane and you kill yourself or something weird or no, it just kills you or something like that.
It's deadly. It's deadly chewing gum.
And he teams up with. So he goes back to work for the organization. I don't even remember what the organization was called. And he teams up with Babyface.
Yeah, that's his sidekick. His name. He's like an ex-criminal that he has to get out of jail in order to, he has to request his boss to free him from prison to assist him on the mission.
And Babyface is he's like some sort of gadget man.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like the Q character.
Yeah, and then they go to Holland. I know that much.
Yeah, and he meets up with this other female agent who actually, spoiler alert, turns out to be a double agent who's been turned by the bad guys, and but is conflicted, about it. I think it's because they're blackmailing her. I think her sister has been poisoned or affected by the gum or something, and something like that. I can't exactly what it was, but she's been forced to be working for them, and she sets up Super Dragon to betray him and all that kind of usual stuff. The character's name is actually it's listed as Brian Cooper, but they don't think they refer to him. They just refer to him as Secret Agent Super Dragon throughout most of the movie, if I remember right. So it's they don't even refer to him by his real name, just by his code name.
I know that at some point he gets put into a coffin and left out to die in the water.
Yeah, he gets they put him in a coffin and dump him into the ocean, try to kill him. But he has I think he has a breathing device or something.
That he has a breathing device. He holds his breath. I know Babyface saves him.
Yeah, I think he either he had something on him where he holds his breath until Babyface pulls the coffin out of the water. Some silly stuff like that. But this is a very obvious falls under the Eurospy genre, which we're going to cover in a little bit. A very obvious trying to rip off of trying to cash in on the James Bond fame and all that, and it's just bad. It's boring. As far as the riffing goes in this episode, it's actually really, really good. They make a lot of good jokes on this one. They even have fun. They even create their own little theme song based off the title. They go Secret Agent, dun dun, Super Dragon, dun dun. It's a pretty funny whole segment. They come up with their own theme song for the movie because there really isn't. But I really like this one. It's really funny. The riffing is really good, and the whole segments are, for the most part, I think we're pretty good. What would you say on that one, Josh?
Well, I'm trying to remember. We have virtual comedy and micro golf. That one's hilarious. We have Mirsky the automaton robot, which is just hilarious. The robot that
Oh yeah.
all he does is say, I am Mirsky. Give my best wishes to everybody."
Mhm.
And it's this robot that Crow and Tom invent. And Joel's like, "Okay, so what else does he do?" And they're like, "That's pretty much it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, how do you turn him off? You don't."
You don't.
Like, he is a new life form for you to love and care for, Joel.
Mhm.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
We're gonna go get some Malamars.
Yeah. I like at the end, Dr. Forrester tries to hold a supervillain seminar, and it doesn't go very well.
Do you think that's a big thing? Forrester raises the opinion, and I want to ask you guys: do you think that having some sort of weird, bizarre, or exotic pet makes you a better supervillain?
I believe firmly yes.
I think it kind of helps.
It adds to the mystique.
What are the keys to being a good supervillain? I mean, obviously you have to be crazy to some extent, but yet still smart enough to build an empire under which you can control with an iron fist.
Right.
Well, it seems early on you have to establish fear by killing multiple groups of people, because you don't want your henchmen getting out of line.
Yeah. Right.
I understand a good dental plan is necessary as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, naturally.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Secret Age Super Dragon, it's a really bad, boring spy movie, but they riff it really good.
Agreed.
Something I just noticed, to interject, I haven't seen this movie, but I was just looking it up while you were talking about it,
Mhm.
and this is something common with a lot of the ones we're going to be talking about. There's some cross-pollinating here with the actors. Marisa Mel is one of the performers in this,
Right.
and she is in Danger Diabolik.
Yep.
Well,
In fact, she's the female lead.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do 6 degrees of separation for all these movies, I think.
Yeah, there is a ton of people from one film into another film into another film, and that's something we're going to probably be noticing a lot tonight.
Yeah. I think before we get to the next one, since it's heavily obviously related to the James Bond series, we'll probably talk about just like the Eurospy thing in general. I think Fred probably can provide a little info about that.
Well,
It basically, when James Bond came onto the scene, I mean, it took a bit. By the time Goldfinger came out, it just exploded. It became, a pulp culture phenomenon. And therefore, when that kind of stuff happens, other people see dollar signs and say, like, hey, this is popular, let's try to rip it off or borrow from it as much as possible. And that created basically the Eurospy genre, which spawned a lot of the movies that they did, that they riffed on, that we're going to be talking about tonight. Especially
right.
the one that we're going to get to next, Operation Kid Brother, a.k.a. Operation 007, a.k.a. OK Connery.
Well, I guess real quick, then I will. Maybe now's the time to interject about this. That I'm actually even doing an episode of a show about this. But as you pointed out, Goldfinger was essentially, many people consider the first 3 Bond films sort of the trilogy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The set in stone trilogy.
Right.
Because they really are the most connected of all the Bond films. They actually seem to flow into each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're progressive into each other, and they really do set the tone. So everything in those 3 films pretty much set the standard for Bond for the rest of the run. By Goldfinger, it's they established pretty much every last precedent there was for the most part.
They got the formula down.
Right. The only thing not up to that point would be Q. Q
Yes.
was not quite. He was introduced, but not really Q yet.
No.
But what happened is as with every popular trend, by the time it becomes a phenomenon, it leaves something that's a trend and becomes a phenomenon. Obviously, people want to copy it. They want to profit off of it. And they do it one of 2 ways. They generally try to do copies, or they do parody spoofs. And basically by 1966, and it's interesting to note that Secret Agent Super Dragon was 1966.
Yeah.
A ton of films in 1966 started to explode onto the scene that were either parodies or ripoffs.
Yep.
And Thunderball was 1965. So that's the fourth of the Sean Connerys. And by 1966, you had a slew of imitators and comedies, parodies, pastiches. They were all over the place. From or actually it was R.E.M. Flint was the first one, and The Silencers, which was the Matt Helm film. There's just an endless number of them. So of course Italy had the knockoffs. So
yeah, there's like hundreds and hundreds of these Eurospy movies out there.
Yeah. There's even more than we know.
Yeah. But that leads us to the Operation Kid Brother. This is a gigantic attempt to basically Operation Kid Brother. The plot of Operation Kid Brother is an evil organization is out to get their hands on oh God, what was it? Some information that's hidden inside the mind of this one woman because they killed the one agent and then they kidnap her. And getting drawn into the drama is Neil Connery, and yes, that he is the brother of Sean Connery, and they go out of their way to make it very obvious that he is Neil Connery, and even though they can't say his brother's name or the name of his famous spy character, he's your brother's the famous spy, but they expect the audience to know who exactly they're referring to.
Which kind of raises an interesting point. In this universe, is Sean Connery an actual spy?
Yeah. If they all know that he's the spy, he's not a very good. If they all know this guy's his brother, he must not be a very good spy.
Yeah, it gets kind of confusing because it's like, they call him Neil Connery, and so his brother is obviously they're referring to his brother Sean, but they also refer to his brother as the famous, spy. It's obviously that, we're making reference to James Bond, but, it's like, yeah, it gets kind of confusing. It's like, I don't
They couldn't call him Bill Bond or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they were very protective of the copyright at that time.
Yeah, they had to do that.
There was a lot of, that's something that you have to note, that there was, lawsuits were happening with the Bond series. That continued on through its entire run. And so they were very, very, very protective of the Bond name. Not so much like, say, the Godzilla Toho thing where, they were vicious about it. This was more because of, like I said, there were already lawsuits and litigation because of the Thunderball incident with Kevin McClory. And Kevin McClory, for those that don't know, Ian Fleming set about to write a new Bond book, and he wanted to adapt it into a screenplay. This is before Dr. No hit the screen, by the way. And essentially, he started work on a book called Thunderball. But he just didn't feel like he had the chops to do a screenplay. So he brought in a couple of writers, one of which was Kevin McClory, and these two were to help him flesh it out. And essentially, what happened is he didn't like working with them, so he just left and said, that's it, I'm done, and released Thunderball, but he released it with only his name on the book.
You're right. Yeah.
And Mr. McClory claimed that he had contributed significantly to the book, and thus basically characters like Blofeld and Spectre were registered as his. I guess those were his creation. At least the law said they were.
Yeah.
So essentially, there was a lot of fear over lawsuit and litigation, and even back in the 60s, which was a little more liberal with this type of thing.
Yeah. It's very obvious that they were going out of their way to make sure not to get themselves in trouble with United Artists and the Broccoli's by not specifically saying James Bond or 007 in the movie because they didn't want to get sued. But anyway, the bad guys their organization is called Thanatos, and and Neil Connery is a doctor who's a cosmetic surgeon and also an expert hypnotist, and so
and he can read lips.
Yeah, and he can read lips too.
Can't forget that.
Mm-hmm. So he gets brought in by the spy organization, the good guys, because of his obvious abilities. and he hypnotizes the woman to get the information out of her, and then she gets killed, and he ends up chasing the bad guys around, trying to stop them, their evil plan, that kind of stuff, and it's just I guess the first, before we get to how boring this movie is, we should probably also talk about the fact that there are a lot of, for fans of the Bond movie series, there are a ton of familiar faces in this movie directly from actors and actresses directly from the Bond movies themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have Lois Maxwell, who played Miss Moneypenny, who plays the agent, who plays a character named, ironically, Miss Maxwell. You have Bernard Lee, who played M at the time, is Commander Cunningham, the head of the Secret Service. On the bad guy side, you have Adolfo Celli, who played the bad guy in Thunderball, and you also have who else is it from Russia from Love, the actress Daniela Bianchi, I believe her. Is that how you pronounce?
Yeah,
pronounce her name? Yeah, she played the defecting Russian spy from Russia with Love, and so you have they didn't just go out and get Sean Connery's brother. They got all these Bond-related actors to appear in this movie as well, and so they're really trying to cash in on the whole thing with this one, and it's such a mess because Neil Connery obviously is not an actor, which is the biggest problem, and it's just so boring because the way that the movie goes about, it's like he's hardly ever in any danger, and they set him up to be like he's got all these skills, and they just all happen to be able to come in handy at the right time.
Well, I'd like to point also that for a movie, this is minus the riff, okay, so not related to MST, that the movie as itself, it's played as if it's supposed to be a joke.
Yes.
Like, this is supposed to be funny, but this movie is not funny in the slightest.
Absolutely not.
There's not even an attempt at jokes in it other than the whole Neil Connery and Miss Maxwell, and the fact that, like you said, there's all these other actors. Anthony Dawson, by the way, is another one. He was in Dr. No.
Oh, that's right. He played Alpha, the head of Thanatos.
Yep. He was Alpha, and it's like that was the weird thing about this is it's not funny. It's actually very violent.
Yes.
There's a scene where the Japanese girl, I think it's Yushuko.
Yeah.
She spoiler alert, where she does get killed, and he just like walks away from the body, begins talking to this other guy very casually.
Yeah,
he didn't give it.
Oh,
yeah,
that was a hell of a thing right there. So anyway, how are you?
He did
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
Crap.
he was like stone cold. He did not give a crap that she was just violently murdered in front of him after they spent so much trouble trying to rescue her just so that he could get the information out of her head. And then she gets killed, and he's like, whatever.
Even Sean would have been like, damn, that was a waste of a young life.
Exactly. Bond would have shown some kind of sympathy, but it's like Neil Connery's character is just like, whatever.
We'll just have to get somebody to clean that up later.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's the thing. He's not the stone cold killer. He's a plastic surgeon.
He's a doctor.
Yeah, and he's like talking about how like he's not a killer and stuff, and it's like he it's like he can defend himself, but like he's never like used guns before and stuff like that, which but he's really good at archery too. That's the other thing. He's a good shot with that comes into play as well. And knows martial arts, and he also happens to know martial arts too, despite being a plastic surgeon. But it's just so I guess Fred is right. It's obvious that they were trying to do some kind of parody, and it fails on every level. It's not funny. It comes off.
Sure?
It seems like it is kind of an attempt to be. It's like there's a lot of wink, wink, nudge, nudge stuff going on here with about Neil and his brother and the names of these characters because they're obvious Bond movie connections. So I think maybe Fred's onto something. Maybe they were trying to. It seems like it was because it doesn't really work as. It obviously it's not funny, but it doesn't seem to really work as any kind of exciting action piece because it's all just very boring.
Well, a lot of times these Italian productions, especially, they were slapped together a lot of the time, and basically As one director's son was talking about in an interview from Italy, they didn't really. You never pitched an actual movie. You pitched what your movie was like when you pitched a film in Italy. So you didn't go in and say, I've got this great idea for a drama. You pitched in, you walked in and you said, oh, I got this great idea for a movie. It's just like that popular film Kramer versus Kramer.
Right.
And probably that's exactly what this was. It was, hey, these Bond films are huge. Italy was known to, follow trends, very much so. I mean, even, the spaghetti westerns are very famous, but they were even following the trend of westerns at that time. They just hit something and made it better in many people's eyes. But yeah, they were very much into trending, and more than likely, I'll bet you they just said, hey, let's get something out as fast as we can.
Yeah.
And they just slapped this thing. It's obvious. There's no rhyme or reason to anything in this film.
No. It's
I don't know about Diabolik, but I know that this movie. I know that 007, Secret Agent Super Dragon, and Death Ray all have like at least 5 writers each.
Yeah.
5 credited writers each.
Yeah.
Which is never a good sign.
Well, one thing, and this is just a side note, that as I'm studying for this other project I'm doing, I've noticed that Bond has this really unique essence to it, in that it's such a recognizable. I don't want to call it a formula, but for the sake of this, for brevity, we'll say formula, and yet it's almost impossible to copy it. And there's no films that really captured the success of the Bond films. And all of the spy films that were parodies really weren't funny. I mean, seriously, I've seen a lot of them now, and they're genuinely not very funny.
Somebody doesn't like Austin Powers.
Well, that's later, though. That was making fun of a broader spectrum. Austin Powers borrowed quite literally from Our Man Flint and the Silencers, among many other spy films.
Yeah, it just wasn't about Bond.
It wasn't just about Bond. I mean, that was also making fun of the Avengers and the whole mod crazy, the mod squad, and it was a much bigger pastiche. Whereas the films that were directly going after Bond at the time, they weren't. We just watched Our Man Flint and In Like Flint just last night, and the weird thing is that they're not. I mean, I love Our Man Flint. All right, I really love that movie, but it's not what you'd call hysterical. It's done as a comedy, and yet it's not particularly hilarious. And I think that's very interesting. So the Bond formula was so set that it became almost impossible to duplicate.
Yeah, and that's what all these movies that they did on MSTK were trying to do, and they fail. That's why they're not good. they just can't they can't do it. But anyway, let's see. As far as like the riffing on this episode goes, we've all seen this one, and we can all agree that the riffing on this one is pretty outstanding. The jokes that they of course, right, Josh. But
yeah, this is one of the few ones I got to see, and I really enjoyed it. It's actually one of the ones I'll probably be watching again, because there's
almost too many jokes.
There's too many jokes, and the host segments are wonderful, especially the first one during the movie. What was Joel's catchphrase?
I know.
Yeah, he's pretending. He's pretending to be.
That was wonderful.
He's pretending to be Adolfo
Sealy
from the movie, and he's like being all like evil and like I know. It's hilarious. I love that skit.
He tries to smoke. What is it, like beef jerky or something?
Yeah,
it's a Tootsie Roll. Tootsie
Roll. I thought it was either a Tootsie Roll or like a beef jerky stick.
And what makes that work is that he has Crow, Servo, and Gypsy all dressed up like the women henchmen from the movie.
And the sailor girls.
Yeah, the sailor girls, and they got the hats, and he even like he does like a like a mwah kiss on Crow for.
He pulls down that prop that has no actual function.
Yeah.
Hey Joel, what is that thing?
It's so clearly like cardboard and tape.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and then he ends every sentence with "I know."
It's
That's
just
pretty much all his lines.
You built. It's not even connected to anything.
Yeah, I know. They even they have fun with the Neil Sean connection in another skit.
The lowest point was when he agreed to be in Highlander 2: The Quickening.
Yep.
And Neil had to comfort Sean.
Yep.
Mm.
Which is.
I thought that was. I'm gonna be honest. I thought that was a real cheap shot, personally.
Yeah. But
That was the only joke I thought fell flat.
I thought that segment was kind of a cheap shot, but I did like that joke, the Highlander joke.
I will agree. The Highlander 2 bit was funny.
Mm-hmm.
The Highlander 2 bit was funny.
Yeah, they're really walking the line to getting kind of, vicious with that segment, going after both of them at the same time, kind of, but...
Well, more going after Neil than really going after Sean, because there is no real reason to go after Sean.
And the other fun bit is, in the callback to Manos, Torgo returns to finally give them their soda.
But he forgot the crazy bread. But they get all these coupons, and then he has to use their bathroom.
Mm-hmm. And
the invention exchange with the leader Hosen.
Yeah, the leader Hosen, and Frank breaks down. I also like at the end where Forster just starts slapping. You can hear him continually slap Frank over and over during the credits, which are to the Torgo theme.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was at first, and then I got it. It was great.
One of my favorite little bits is because Neil Connery has to pretend to be this blind beggar in order to get inside this factory where the bad guys are manufacturing. And I love the bit where it's obviously he stops pretending, and Crow's like, I'm blind by that's right, I'm blind because he does such a horrible job of trying to pretend to be blind. It's like
Sean had to wear a rug too.
Yeah.
At the nuclear-powered rug factory.
Yeah, nuclear-powered rug factory.
That's like the closest it comes to being a joke, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like throughout the entire movie, that's the closest. Nuclear rugs. That's also. Did anyone else notice that the lair or factory, whatever it was, in the cave was big? It looked like a set from Diabolik, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Was the Diabolik?
You know what? I gotta remember. I just watched this and I don't remember the layer. I wasn't paying attention. I've seen so many spy films lately; they're all beginning to meld together.
Yeah, they had this underground layer, like in a cave, underneath the what's my keyboard? Underneath the castle or manor or whatever it was, and it looked like one of the ones from Diabolik. It looked like his place from Diabolik, which I'm going to call Deep Tongue.
Mm-hmm.
We should be calling it OK Connery because that was the theme. That was the hilariously great, amazing theme song.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean that's what I'm going to call the layer, Deep Tongue.
Here's another. Yeah. Here's another fun little connection to some of the other ones we're going to talk about. The guy who composed the music for OK Connery also did the music for Danger Diabolik, which we'll get to at the end.
Morricone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's another connection.
So you hated the we'll get to Diabolik later, but you didn't hate the OK Connery theme, Fred?
Oh, I OK Connery. You got to understand that, and I know we'll get to this with Danger Diabolik. I watched that as a movie, not as a riff.
Okay.
No, I mean you did. I know. I mean the theme from OK Connery. You didn't hate the theme song?
Well, it's garbage.
It is garbage.
my problem with I guess we'll bring it since you're stressing. Danger Diabolik is the everything repeats. It's the whole score is completely repetitious to the point of driving you absolutely insane. Yeah, what Toby's doing right there is the driving theme.
Oh,
and
geez, yeah.
There is so much freaking driving in this movie. It is so dull. But whatever. Again, we'll save that for that. But yeah, it's very repetitious.
Yeah.
But I didn't pay attention to most of that in Operation Kid Brother. I was just listening to the riff. So, Dangerous Diabolik, same thing. I wasn't even really paying attention to that.
Well, anyway, I guess to wrap up on Operation Kid Brother is that the movie obviously stinks to high heaven, but this episode of MST3K is pretty excellent. The riffing is great. The whole segments are great. It's a real winner. So let's move on to our next one. codenamed Diamond Head from season 6, and this one is originally meant it was a pilot movie for a potential TV series that never got picked up, produced by the television legend Quinn Martin. It's basically about this spy who gets sent to Hawaii to stop this bad guy from committing various heinous acts, stuff like that. Yeah, Lovejoy. And in the end, this is really dull. I can see why this did not get picked up as a series, because it's very obvious it's trying to take advantage of a Hawaii Five-0 kind of feel with this movie. Taking advantage of the nice, beautiful locations in Hawaii, but it's not very exciting. The hero is exactly. I mean, he's not like he's a terrible person, but he doesn't come off as someone you can really kind of like, I guess, root for. He seems kind of like blasé, kind of bland, so that doesn't help either. Yeah, there's some kind of experimental weapon that's being tested by the military, and the bad guy is out to steal it, and so Diamond Head has to stop him, and that's pretty much the plot.
Diamond Head is played by Roy Finnis of the Invaders fame.
Mm-hmm. The bad guy is played by let's see, what's the actor's
name?
Ian
McShane.
Yep, Ian McShane. And yeah, it's just dull. It just there's no excitement or stuff like that. It's pretty, you can easily see why this never made it past the pilot movie stage. It just doesn't work. It's not really exciting.
It came about 7 years too late, because it was made in 1977, and I think it's safe to say that by 1977 the spy boom had died.
Yeah, I mean, and Bond was going through a transition at the time, and it was the Roger Moore era when this was done, so there was a lot more camp going on in the Bond films, and and yeah, it doesn't help. I mean, if this had maybe been come out like a couple years ago, earlier in the 70s, it might have worked, but it doesn't. It just doesn't.
Was Hawaii Five-0 still on the air when this came out?
Yes, that didn't help either. Yeah, Hawaii Five-0 was had been on for a couple years by the time this was made, so it's that doesn't help either. I know Toby and Fred haven't seen this one here, so
I tried watching part of it, but it was just kind of too slow for me to really pay attention to.
Yeah, this episode, the riffing it's not horrible, but it's not great. There's some good jokes here and there, but most of the time it's kind of like it kind of just goes through the motions. It's not great. It's just like an average episode.
You gonna talk about the host segments? We gotta talk about the host segments.
The host segments are actually kind of I kind of like them. Why don't you go over that, Josh?
Okay, so the big runner is, what would life be like if it's basically like Mike or Crow and Servo are sitting around, and Mike's kind of they get annoyed with Mike for doing whatever, and they're like, man, I wish Mike was a better cook, and Magic Voice is like, oh really? Well, let's see what life would be like if you had to live with the frugal gourmet.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to like video footage of Crow and Servo if they had to live with Mike, but it's Mike being the frugal gourmet.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the same thing, but it's living with. Did you ever see the movie A Boy's Life?
This Boy's Life.
This Boy's Life. Did you ever see the movie This Boy's Life?
No.
Fred, Toby?
No.
I can't say I have.
It's the dad from that movie who was like abusive and mean, I'm told. I haven't seen the movie either.
I guess that joke works more if you've seen the movie, because that's what Mike's character is. And then the third one is he's the lead singer of the Crash Test Dummies.
Brad Roberts. So I have a question for the three of us. Which one would be the worst one to live with? The dad from This Boy's Life, the Frugal Gourmet, or Brad Roberts, lead singer of the Crash Test Dummies?
I'd go with the abusive, annoying dad.
I think abusive takes the win in most cases.
Okay, let's go. Let's cut out abusive dad. I think that went. That you're right. Let's go with Frugal Gourmet or Brad Roberts. Which one's worse?
I guess Fred Roberts.
Brad.
Or whatever. I'm not a fan of the crash test dummy, so.
Toby.
Once there was this kid who got into an accident and couldn't go to school. So yeah, that one.
Fred.
Oh boy. I guess I can't imagine the lead singer of that group going around singing everything. So I'm gonna go with the Frugal Gourmet because I can imagine like dinner and lunch being kind of a frightening experience every day of your life. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go with Frugal Gourmet on that one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, almost forgot. There is a short for this episode, A Day at the Fair, which is a pretty good.
Oh, Day at the Fair, yeah.
It's a pretty good one. It's really funny. The riffing on the short is actually a lot better than on the movie Diamond Head. So this one kind of turns out to be just like an average episode. It's not nothing to sing home about, but it's not like it's not horrible.
I liked it more than I liked Operation 007. I know I stand alone, but whatever.
Okay.
Let's just go to Danger Death Ray.
Yeah. Next up from season 6 is Danger Death Ray. Another very obvious Euro spy James Bond ripoff from that time period. Our secret agent is Bart Fargo, and the bad guys. Yeah, great name.
Thank you. He laughed at it. Thank you.
Well, it's supposed to be obviously fart. I mean,
you're not the only
Fargo.
one that laughed at it. It's the most obvious thing ever.
Yeah,
and no one made that movie picked up on it.
But yeah, so we have our hero Bart, Mr. Bart Fargo, and the bad guys kidnap this scientist who has invented a death ray, but he created it for only peaceful purposes. This death ray, peaceful death ray. So the bad guys kidnap him so that he can build the death ray for them and use it for bad things. And so Bart Fargo spends the rest of the movie trying to track down where the guy's lair is so he can rescue the scientists and foil their plans. And I think the real highlight of this is this obviously there was not like a big budget for this movie, but you get to a point, and this is one of the best things that they play off. The bad guys, they kidnap the scientists and they get into this helicopter. And it's a normal helicopter. Then all of a sudden, the footage switch, and it turns from a real helicopter into a toy helicopter. And this toy helicopter lands on top of a toy submarine that looks like it's inside a kid's bathtub. And you're just like dumbfounded. Like, really? did they run out of money so fast that they had to use toys in order to pull off the special effects? And they get some great jokes off of like filmed in filmed in a kid's bathtub, like
special effects by Billy.
Yeah, special effects by Billy. Get this toy out of here quick. Other favorite is like, don't open the hatch, you'll turn into a toy. They even do it later when there's a car chase and Fargo's car goes off one of those really sharp cliff turns that you see in like movies, and when the car goes off the cliff, it's an obvious model and the car is a toy. It's just so bad. This movie is just like, wow, it's not really exciting. Bart Fargo isn't exactly it's obviously either he's trying to be like a James Bond and he's trying to romance the women, but the guy has like zero personality. And go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say, like, okay, I think the theme from that movie is way worse than Diabolik and way more repetitive. I don't even remember it.
Oh, yeah, it's really...
But it's like, ba-ba-ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Da-da.
They make fun of that, too. Yeah, there's like, yeah, da-da-da. Yeah, it's very repetitive and bad, and that provides more fodder for Mike and them to play off of. And I like there's another great joke where... one of the bad guys, he's in a disguise, like in a beard, and the Mike and them think he's like Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln is Time Cop. but the real killer, one of the at first I thought this guy was the head bad guy, but I guess he was a henchman. They show him the beginning of the movie. He's in the car going to because him and this other guy sneak into the presentation where the scientist is showing off the death ray, and while he's in the car and during the opening credits, Mike just goes looks at the guy and goes, "If Michael Caine and Andre the Giant had a child," and oh my god, that's like one of the that riff just killed me. As like I was laughing for like a straight minute because if you see the episode and you see what this guy looks like, that riff is like perfection for that guy because he does look like he's the love child of Michael Caine and Andre the Giant. It's kind of disturbing in a way. But the riffing on this one is I had never seen this one until recently when it came out on one of the most recent Shout box sets, and I was really surprised how good the riffing on this one. This movie provides them plenty of material and they nail it. I really like this one. What about you, Josh? I know you've seen this one too, right?
I enjoyed it a lot. It's just such a. I mean, of all the 5 spy movies that we're going to talk about, I think that one's the worst. I mean, that one it's amazing how bad it was. And
even worse than OK Connery?
Well, I mean, at least OK Connery didn't have a toy helicopter and a submarine. And acting is terrible, and the music is awful.
Oh, the music is really bad.
There aren't many Mystery Science Theater 3000 films where you can sit and honestly say the music was terrible.
Yeah, the music in Danger Death Ray is really wretched.
I mean, it's just it has no purpose, and you wonder like what they were thinking, and the answer is, well, they were probably trying to pad out the market.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but yeah, I think the fact that they had to use toys in order to pull off the special effects because they obviously ran out of money or something is really embarrassing and just and hilarious at the same time.
Well, I'd like to. I haven't seen this one, so I don't know how bad these are. I have a pretty good idea. I've seen a lot of Italian films, and I think it's really important to bring this up, though. Now, this movie is obviously a bad movie. All right, I don't even have to see it to know it. I've been looking at photographs on the internet and while you were talking, and wow, this is cheeseball for even cheese.
Oh yeah, it is.
But something that a lot of people don't understand about Italy and a lot of Euro films in general, when it comes to the models or toys as a joke, and obviously for Mysteries MST, that's what you go after. You always go for the lowest common denominator. You always go for the attack. But it's really important to note that they don't have a special effects crew in Italy, or at least at that time they really didn't.
Oh, okay.
They're really, people tend to think of, they made a movie, so they think of like our standards, our Hollywood, and we have like people that professionally do music, professionally do special effects, professionally do sets. You know what I mean? You can go to companies and have these things built. In Italy, you did your own for the most part. And while, of course, there were a few individuals who did start to specialize in this as it went along, they basically, if you didn't have a contact or weren't friends with somebody that knew what they were doing, you built it yourself. Okay, and that's something a lot of people don't understand about Italian cinema, is that they didn't have these like huge studios. Generally, their studios were just one building.
Okay, so
they would shoot multiple movies,
Okay.
and they would take turns and they would switch. That's why a lot of the sets look the same. That's why, just like in Japan, they would use like the village they would create for the samurai films, and then another samurai film would shoot there. And,
they did that with the Godzilla movies. They reused sets over and over again.
Right. But like Mario Bava, who did Danger Diabolik, I keep screwing that up. Diabolik, he started as an effects man. Okay, he was a visual effects man. So like that's why I say his stuff looks better than say, this film and so many others. But they didn't have the budgets. I mean, where we dealt in the millions from early on, they were dealing in the thousands.
Oh, okay.
So imagine like their big films were low budget by our standards. So their low budget films were basically no budget. I mean, nothing.
Okay, that's actually good to know. That kind of helps explains, like, because like when I was watching, I was like, really? It's like they haven't used toys for the special effects. It's like, what? Which
They were probably leftover props from other movies, more than likely.
probably.
That's sad.
I love
And
how
the director didn't know how to shoot them.
after the bad guys land the helicopter on the sub and they get the scientists and they blow up the helicopter as the sub submerges, and Crow has another great line where he goes, "This must be a massive organization to throw away a $1.50 helicopter like that." I also love another good joke is they play off the title and say stuff like "Danger, twist tie," or "Danger this" and "Danger that." It's really good. I really hopefully you guys will get to see this one. I think the riffing on this one is really good. You probably would enjoy it. It's really funny.
I'm gonna check it out.
I'm glad they put danger in the title, otherwise I wouldn't have known that the death ray was dangerous. I would just say.
The host segments of this one are pretty fun. Funny, Torgo returns again in this episode because Frank's trying to start a talent agency and Torgo comes in as a potential client. But Dr. Forster puts a kibosh on Frank, the Agent to the Stars attempt. There's a great bit where Servo actually builds his own peaceful death ray and shoots Crow with it, and Crow is like on fire. Like his like at first they're like they start laughing, and then all of a sudden his eyes burst into flames, and he starts screaming ah! And it's like which makes it even more funny. I don't know, Josh. What do you think of the "This Is Your Life" Mike Nelson bit that they did? I don't know. That seemed to.
I didn't find that one funny. I thought that manly men's women's sunglasses for man was funny.
That was funny. That was a good one.
They have the women. It's like Crow designs some because the hero wears these sunglasses that are kind of Italian-y, and so Crow decides to design some men's sunglasses for men, and they're all like really girly.
Yeah, very girly.
And then this pair even like Crow, these sunglasses seem kind of womany. It's like, but they're for men.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pulls out a pair of glasses that actually, and Mike says, Crow, this pair of sunglasses actually says woman, but they're for men. It's just a play on these weird sunglasses.
Also, at the end, Fargo, when he goes inside the bad guy's headquarters, he destroys all these video cameras because the head bad guy's trying to kill him with the security system and also the death ray. And so he's taking all these security cameras, which after the movie's over, causes Cambot to cry. And so Mike has to comfort Cambot. Cambot had a hard time watching all those cameras get destroyed, which is kind of cute. But poor Cambot. But this is Josh and I both really like this one. It's a really good episode. Riffing's good. It's definitely one to check out. All right. Next we jump ahead to season 8, and the movie's called Agent for H.A.R.M. This one
from or from.
I think it's for H.A.R.M.
Let's check.
Yeah, but H.A.R.M is like an abbreviation. It's like
H.A.R.M. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
It's H.A. It's got dots in it. It's abbreviation. It's not meant to be the word harm. But this one apparently was originally supposed to be a pilot for a TV series, but they ended up just releasing it in theaters as a movie. The secret agent this one is called Adam Chance. He's trying to keep this guy invents this a gun that or some kind of like deadly spore weapon, I guess. Some kind of spore related weapon this guy invents out of the hands of the bad guys. And the movie's pretty lame.
And the hero looks a lot like Dr. Smith from Lost in Space, Jonathan Harris.
Yeah, the actor who plays Adam Chance is called Mark Richmond. He's been in a lot of stuff. A lot of people, if they see it, they'll probably recognize him.
But he looks like Jonathan Harris. That's what's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm looking at a photo of him, and he looks like a cross between Dr. Smith and Ray Fiennes.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is. Yeah, this was the director of this one was Jared Oswald, did a lot of work on the classic Outer Limits TV show, and but there's none of that kind of stuff in this movie. It's it's very dull, not very exciting, which seems to be the theme for a lot of these movies, these failed spy movies that they ripped on. There's just no excitement at all. It's just like, okay, let's see what happens next. It's been a while since I've watched this one, but I remember the riffing on this one to be pretty good. There's a lot of recurring jokes in this one. One of the henchmen kind of looks like Prince, so they throw in a lot of Prince jokes and references. And also they play with the music too, where they go da da a lot. Like whenever there's something going on, like, oh, here they go driving up to the house, da da that kind of thing. I kind of like that one. I thought it was funny, but yeah, this movie it's another failed attempt to try to make their own kind of James Bond movie, and it just doesn't work. It's just not. It's just no excitement. It's like it's like you're watching stuff like going through the motions. At least it was to me.
Well, again, they were trying to cash. A lot of these films thought there was a formula. Oh, I just need pretty girls, a good-looking lead, gadgets.
Yeah.
And he's got to be knowledgeable in everything, and it's more than that.
Yeah, and this guy's got gadgets in this movie too. He does, and but the other big thing about this episode is the host segments, because as part of the ongoing plot line of season 8, Mike gets put on trial for blowing up all the planets that he's blown up in the previous episodes of the season, and Pearl is like the prosecutor, and Bobo is his defense attorney, pretending to be like Clarence Darrow from Inherit the Wind. He's dressed up and he has a southern accent. He's in a nice fine suit, and the whole segments end up being a lot of fun. One of the most memorable is the bots send down pre-recorded testimony to try to support Mike. Servos doesn't help, but Crow just goes on a expletive-laden rant about how ridiculous the whole trial is and it's a sham. And most of what he says, every other word starts getting bleeped out. So it ends up being really funny. I always liked that bit. I thought it was, it was their way of just kind of like, having fun. It's like, yeah, we can't really say this stuff, but you kind of can get an idea of what Crow is really trying to say, even though it's being bleeped out. And then Brain Guy gets put on the stand because the Observer planet got blown up because of Mike's actions. And so, but then Bobo gets to destroy his testimony by pointing out the fact that he doesn't know how to properly bake a pie, and therefore he's a liar, and therefore his testimony is invalid. So just a lot of really crazy stuff in this episode. So from what I remember, it was a good one. I liked it. So between the good riffing and some fun pretty wacky host segments, it's a pretty solid episode.
Do we want to go to it? Go to Diabolik?
We might as well. And,
I think we should.
Yeah.
Okay, Fred, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Well,
Fred,
unfortunately, somebody forced my hand on some of this, so we've already covered it.
No, you didn't really cover your hatred for it.
Yeah. Just to give folks an idea, Fred recently watched the episode where the movie we're talking about. The episode is the final episode of the series, Danger Diabolik, and Fred recently saw this movie uncut, unriffed, and he has plenty to say about what exactly he thinks of this movie. So we'll pass the torch to Fred here and let him go.
Well, just context is required for this. I've been watching a ton of spy films for the last few months. I showed a friend all the James Bond movies. He's never seen any of the early Bond films. He had seen a few Pierce Brosnan, two of the Daniel Craigs, but he'd never seen any of the early ones, which was really weird to me. So I said, hey, let's get together every so often and let's watch all the Bond movies. So over about a 4-month period, we watched all the Bond films, and it really sparked an interest in watching more spy films, and I thought, hey, why don't I just keep going? And I think I'll check out a lot of these other films that are so popular, so famous in the genre, and see what was going on at the time. And I also have a love of cheesy Italian cinema as well. So that's what leads to Danger Diabolik, which sounded like the perfect film for me. You know, it's not so much a spy film, but it's kind of in that genre. It's Italian. I've heard about this thing for years and years. It's one of those films that just kept slipping under the, not so much under the radar, because I knew about it. I just never got a chance to see it. Every opportunity it just passed. And so you have to add that factor in also, that I've been wanting to watch this movie for years and years. I just kept missing it. So finally, a friend of mine, he had the special edition, brings it over, and I cannot tell you how much I hated this film. This film was like some supervillain's idea of torture for me.
Ouch.
First of all, the soundtrack is one of the most obnoxious soundtracks I've ever heard. And that's probably the biggest factor in it, really. If I was to boil it down, it's that constant, as Toby was doing earlier, that
Yeah.
and it doesn't stop. It's like every time he's getting, in fact, the majority of the film is repetition,
Yes.
which is the second factor that's so obnoxious about this film, is there's no context to anything. He commits a crime, and then it's just him driving away. That's like almost the entire movie, and these chases go on forever.
Yeah.
And it's just him turning a corner, going up a road, going down a road. Oh, here's a helicopter chasing him now. Oh, here's more cars chasing him. And the whole time it's da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, and it got grating. Then he gets to his lair with his girlfriend. And by the way, it seems the only reason he's committing these thefts is to impress her.
Yeah.
That's really the only plot to this movie, though it is based on a series of comic books from Italy. And then you get this other theme, this dee-dee-da.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah.
This is a great second place for most obnoxious piece of music in the movie. Because every time, like, the action is the one we just did, this dee-dee-da is the romantic theme. I wanted to punch kittens by the end of this movie.
Deep tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great jokes that the guys do with the music at the very opening, making fun of, like, making up their own lyrics. You know, I'm gonna go to the store and buy a loaf of bread and
meet Dolores for lunch.
Yeah. And
gonna practice my lick.
But the simple fact of the matter is that's what it was obnoxious to me about it. It was just repetitious. It was boring. This guy's a killer, but yet he's our hero. He kills innocent people throughout the whole movie, which they make fun of on MST also. You know, our hero, everyone. You know, and it's just an obnoxious movie with a basically an evil protagonist.
Yeah,
we're supposed to.
He's supposed to be the hero, but yet he kills innocent people by the truckload and commits crimes.
He is the villain.
He's supposed to sympathize with this guy? If we're supposed to root for him? No way.
I think so. Yeah, it's the classic. You know, he's the anti-hero of the piece, and it's a really obnoxious movie. It's too long. And that's interesting because the MST version is almost 20 minutes shorter.
Yeah, they had to cut off that.
They cut a ton of stuff out of the film. And I'll tell you what, it was funny when I watched the MST, which was after this, it was actually not enjoyable. Okay, that's not the word I would use. But it was endurable. And obviously the jokes were wonderful. But the fact that it was 20 minutes shorter, like, made it more palatable. They cut out all that extra chasing and driving, and wow, what a difference that made to the movie. It really, it's funny. I think that if they'd cut this movie about 20 minutes shorter, maybe longer, it might not have been so obnoxious to me.
So it made the movie more tolerable along with the jokes that they cut so much out. That's
right. I'm not saying it made it good. I'm just saying it made it more tolerable, because by the end of the film, I had a headache.
Oh, I bet.
I had a headache. That's why I hated it so much. And everyone, of course, doesn't know that, but I was posting on Facebook and Skype and how much I hated this movie. I was like, just after a while, I had this pounding headache, and I really wanted to find the people that made this and do harm.
Yeah,
And honestly, that was kind of the impetus for wanting to put this one on the list, and therefore kind of starting the topic of the episode was because you hated this movie so much.
Yeah, what Fred's failing to mention is that when he was done watching the movie, Diabolik climbed out of the TV and killed his family and burned down his home.
Yeah, this movie is horrible. So, and there is a fan following for this movie, which we all just do not understand. I don't understand how people can actually like and defend this movie as being something that's even remotely close to being a good movie. It's not. I
mean, it's got some style. But something having style doesn't necessarily mean it's good. It's more competent than a lot of films. Like if you look at Danger Diabolik compared to all the other ones we talked about, it's far more competent as a film production.
Oh yeah.
Okay, the effects are better. The film stock is better. I mean, everything about it is far more competent. Mario Bava, as I said, started as an effects man.
Mm-hmm.
So he did visual effects. That's what he did. So comparatively to all these other ones, his visual effects are far better. I mean, they look more akin to, say, like Logan's Run of the time period. And so miniatures, but he knew how to, like, paint on glass. So he could do matte paintings. Like the Underground Lair, the shot where he parks the car and she gets out of the car and then walks through that tube. That's mostly painted, just a painted image on glass.
Oh, wow.
And then the rest of it she's walking through is just a practical set. But that's all painted on glass. So, I mean, I give credit where credit is due for production aspects of the film. I'm only referring to just the torment of having to watch this piece of crap. And to make things even worse, there's a documentary on the Paramount DVD where this, I forget his name, but he's a comic book creator, and he worked on Swamp Thing and some, I think he had another one called Turok, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he just endlessly praises this movie by putting down other productions of the time period as if like that's some great argument for this piece of crap. It's like, oh, unlike Batman at the time, which means the Adam West Batman, for crying out loud. He's like, oh, it looks like a comic book, and then he contradicts himself. He's like, most want to do a static image and create, but Diabolik moves it around, and then later he praises it and goes, look, this looks just like a comic book panel for being a static image. Like, do you even know what you're talking about? I mean, seriously. So just everything about this film got under my skin, right down to the commentary from somebody who loved it.
Yeah, but thankfully, although not everyone agrees that it's been a while since I watched this one too, but I do remember the riffing to be, for the final episode of the series, to be pretty good, and I'm glad it was more tolerable for Fred watching the MST3K version after being tortured by the uncut version. So
it was sort of apropos that it's the movie that brought down MST.
Yeah, it's the final movie they riffed before the satellite love crashed back to Earth, and the riffing is pretty good. Most fans don't seem to talk about this one too much. They only talk about it just in the context of it being the final episode, and because the whole segments are all about everything's coming to an end, and Pearl becomes dictator for life of Qatar. Bobo gets a job with the zoo. Brain Guy goes off and does something else. I can't remember what it was.
He becomes Oracle of the Universe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He becomes the omnipotent being to some faraway planet.
Yeah. But the most ironic thing is that it's all an accident because Pearl accidentally breaks the controls that keeps the satellite love in orbit, and which causes it to crash. And it's like, oh well.
No, it's Pearl.
Yeah, Pearl. Yeah, Pearl accidentally brings everything to an end.
You broke the stick of joy.
Yep. And the satellite crashes back to Earth, and at the end, Mike and the bots, Mike, Crow, and Server, are all living together in a little apartment. They didn't jump on Gypsy's bandwagon, who's filthy rich now thanks to all her
Gypsco.
Yeah. And so and then I think, which is a great way to end the series, is the Mike, Crow, and Servo sit down to watch TV, and it's The Crawling Eye, which was the movie they riffed in the first official episode of the series. And just out of nowhere, they just start cracking riffs, just like they did when they were on the Satellite Love. It's just so natural to them that even though they don't have to, endure a bad movie anymore. They're watching bad movies and still riffing on them even after they finally escaped, which I thought was just a wonderful way for them to cap off the series. I really liked that last final hoax segment. So yeah, I'm sad that this one may not get released on DVD, the MST3K version anytime soon, unless they make a deal with Paramount. All the ones we've discussed.
I'm sure Fred's happy about it.
But the ones we've talked about before, Super Dragon, OK Connery, Danger Death Ray, and Codename Diamond Head are all on DVD. Agent for H.A.R.M is probably coming around the corner since it's a Universal flick, and Shout's made a deal with Universal. So that one's probably going to be on a future DVD set. So most of these are pretty easily available for people to see. Diabolik is probably the toughest one, since that's...
Well, it's on YouTube.
It is on YouTube, yeah.
I watched it on YouTube. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, so track down the MST3K version on YouTube and enjoy. Although, since it's the final episode, you may save this maybe for later. But that's person's personal preference, You probably would appreciate all the stuff that's going on in the host segments more if you've seen a lot more of the series, but as the actual finale compared to the one they thought would be the finale, Laser Blast, because they knew this was definitely the end because they chose it for it to be the end. So
it's too bad the movie itself didn't in some way bring about the death of the ship.
Yeah.
That didn't bring it down. Oh, we've been infected by Diabolik. Like they turn on a monitor and it's like we're crashing.
That would have been great.
But they were obviously trying to wrap up their own storylines, so
yeah.
But that would have been funny if the movie had infected the ship. It's oh no, it's bringing it down.
Like Diabolik breaks into Castle Forrester and like steals the controls or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm saying like the movie
shining.
is an infection. Like the movie is like a virus. That
it infects it.
It's like some
like
ship
Gypsy's
can't handle it.
Yeah, Gypsy's walking around humming some of the music, It's like, oh no,
you forgot you forgot the one, the ba ba ba. I can't believe no one hummed the ba 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 ba.
Well,
how did that make you not? How did that make you not want to kill yourself?
It's what kills me is it's Ennio Morricone did the score.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a master, but even masters, this man did so many soundtracks. I'd actually say in his case too many.
Yeah, like this one and the one he did for OK Connery are no, not good.
I'm sure some of these were literally just gut. I mean, I don't know about Danger Diabolik. I mean, it's a pretty polished production. As I said, I got to give it that much for the behind the scenes aspect. But stuff like OK Connery was more than likely just either a favor. Remember, that's why Ennio and these names keep popping up so many times in Italy because there wasn't a large group of people. So again, there wasn't as time went on, it got bigger, but not that big.
Yeah.
How many movies do you hear coming out of Italy today, for instance?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, we forgot to mention Alfredo is back again, but this time he's actually playing the good guy, isn't he? Or
no, he's playing Valmont, the bad guy. He's a bad guy, isn't he?
Well, he's a bad guy in respect to he's the head of a criminal organization, and they pull a little bit of an M. And by the way, not James Bond M. There's a movie called M with Peter Lorre where
yes.
There's a serial killer going around killing children. So the police put all of their efforts in busting the local criminals, and they do this to force them to actually try to find this child killer. And so it's got the same basic idea in this film that the police put the squeeze on this one gangster and then say, hey, if you don't help us, we're going to keep busting you.
Oh, okay,
and so the guy goes, all right, I'll help you catch Diabolik. And funny enough, he's more successful than the police, but of course it fails too.
Yeah, of course.
But he's not a good guy. He's just,
okay.
In many respects, he's at least better than Diabolik. And I mean, at least his motivations are clearer. But yeah, once again, he's playing a character in a Bond-like part. And again, he was in several like this too.
Yeah.
And it's weird because Thunderball is one of my least favorite Connery Bonds. And one of the things I don't like about is Largo, is the character of Largo, and it's not the actor.
No.
Adolfo is a wonderful actor, and he's more fun in these other bad movies than he is in the big budget Thunderball.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because Largo is so boring. He is seriously, like, everybody else is more interesting than Largo. And it seems like Adolfo got his second chance to play a much more fun Largo in these other movies. By the way, the cast, some of the cast in Diabolik is fun. I mean, Adolfo is wonderful in it.
Oh, we can't forget Mr. John Philip Law, who MST3K fans already remember from later in his career doing Space Mutiny with Red Brown. But he plays Diabolik, John Philip Law.
Yeah. Not a very solid actor, truthfully.
No.
More about his... He got cast mostly because of his eyes. He had those electric eyes.
Yeah.
And they were... I mean, I've seen drawings from the comic book, and I have to say, god darn, he does look... I can't think of seriously another character that actually looks physically like the character from the comic book. I mean, they did manipulate his eyebrows for the movie, but still, I mean, the fact that's all you had to do to make him look like the guy from the comic book is pretty amazing. But John's best movie is a movie called Death Rides a Horse. And if you ever want to see a great Western, see Death Rides a Horse with him and Lee Van Cleef. But even his acting in that one is just not... I mean, you got this great actor, Lee Van Cleef, who was a good actor. And you can really see John is just not... He just doesn't quite... He's not horrible, but he's not great either.
Oh, that's... you got Calgon teaming up with Master Ninja. I like the sound of that.
What did you say there, Toby? Because I missed it completely, though.
He just kind of gets blown away by Cleef.
Yeah, it's sort of like if anybody's seen The Untouchables and Kevin Costner was still kind of young in his career. There's this wonderful scene with him and Sean Connery in a church where Connery delivers that great speech about, if he brings a knife, you use a gun, and he puts one of yours in the hospital, you put one of his in the morgue. That's the Chicago way. Costner is really out of his depth in that scene.
Oh, absolutely.
Connery is glowing like metal and fire, and poor Costner, whom I like, I really like. He just wasn't quite there yet as an actor, and you could see because his next line is, "I have sworn to put," he comes off like Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
I have sworn to pull off these men by any means. Like, okay, yeah, it's really a bad thing, and that's how John Philip Law looks next to Lee Van Cleef in that movie. I mean, it's a great movie though. I love it. It's one of my favorite westerns.
I'll have to check that one out definitely because I love Lee.
Really good.
Yeah, I pretend that try to pretend Master Ninja didn't happen when it comes to Lee Van Cleef. But anyway, I think that kind of wraps it up here. It's kind of fun that they tackled this kind of genre, and although if you're familiar with Joel, you shouldn't be too surprised. Joel loved the Sean Connery Bond movies when he was growing up as a kid, and he even incorporated it into his stand-up where he pretended to be a super spy and everything, wearing a white suit, a white tuxedo suit like the one that Connery wore in some of the movies, and
Agent J,
yeah, and so Joel had a real affinity for Bond and spy movies, and so you could definitely see why he finally got to tackle some before he left the show, and then Mike and them continued to pick up when they could after he left. So, but yeah, these ones are good pickings for riffing. Most of the episodes we talked about, I think, are all for the most part really enjoyable. They're definitely ones worth checking out, even if you're maybe not a fan of spy movies in general. The riffing will, for the most part, in a lot of these, will keep you entertained. For me, as being like Fred, being a James Bond fan, I get a kick out of seeing these just bad spy movies get the beating they deserve. Really.
Well, I think that just about does it for this episode, guys. What do you think?
I'm set.
Yeah,
I think we've covered almost everything you could cover. I mean, without getting more into just spy films in general.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Josh?
I have nothing more to add.
Okay, well, I guess that about sums it up. So, Gentlemen, thank you for being on this show. Headquarters will be pleased. All right. This has
And
been
by the way,
Miss-
some of these movies really are for your eyes only.
Yeah, really.
Oh, do you want me to sing for your eyes only?
No.
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 Although you could sing Spy Hard.
I don't know. I can't really do the Weird Al voice as
That's
well as
your
I can
problem.
do. As well as I can do Sheena Easton.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not go there.
Well, this has been the MSTieCast.
I'm Justin Toner.
I'm Frederick Fritz.
I agree. DD down.
And I'm Toby Mobius. And this message will self-destruct in 30 seconds.